kind of grain or any kind of plant that that is starchy, what you do is it goes through a process called saccharification, where you heat up the starches. And I feel like I have to look into the camera.
Yeah, you don't have to.
Yeah. You heat up the starches, and it converts the starches into fermentable sugars. If you guys chew your bread slowly, you probably recognize the process. The slower you chew bread, it actually will become sweet in your mouth instead of just, like hearty. It's the same thing. There are different ways of getting different flavors in the beer. You can roast them like you would with coffee grounds. The darker the husk gets, the more flavors you'll get, like chocolate or coffee. So basically what we do is we'll take the grain and we'll grind it up. Not completely, we want the husk to stay intact because it'll act as a filter. We do that downstairs, we bring it all up here, and then we put the grain in here. This is where the saccharification happens. We'll take heated water from in here and pump it into here, and about 45 minutes later, all of the starches will be converted into sugars, and they'll all be pumped out through there into the boiler, where we'll start adding hops. You guys ever seen real hops? They're pretty potent. No. Ew is the wrong explanation. And depending on the style of beer, will dictate the times and amounts of hops that we'll put into the boiler. From there, they're just empty right now. You can see the steam coming out here. This is we always keep this kind of hot in case we need to boil it or get a brew going really fast. This is just empty right now.
You can see anything.
What this is for is it's called a sparge arm.
Do you want to look in?
Once the grain is all heated up, the grain will kind of settle down, and this, powered by the pressure of the water in the hose, will spin, and it'll kind of flush all of the fermentable sugars down to the bottom, which will then get pumped into the boiler.
And then what do you do with the rest of the stock?
Some people throw it away. Some people fertilize their gardens with it. We give all of our grain to this guy who runs a deer farm. He feeds all of his deer.
Cool.
Intoxicated deer?
No, because the sugars aren't fermented.
Yeah.
So then after the boil is done, we will,
Come on over here, hon.
if we're doing an IPA, which is really heavily hopped, we'll run it through here, which we load up with hops, and it will get none of the bitterness of the hop, but all of the flavor of the hop.
Sophie. Here.
And then from here, we'll pump it into here. This is the fermenting.
Sophie, sit.
You'll notice the difference in smell as you walk in.
Yes. So kind of airy.
Cool.
So at this point, before the fermentation has started, you have what's called wort, W-O-R-T. It's just a really sugary solution made out of whatever ingredients you put in for that specific beer. We will then add the yeast. From this point on, the yeast is pretty much doing all the work. The yeast will consume the sugar and will excrete alcohol and carbon dioxide.
So beer is excreted.
It is.
It's excrement.
It's
excrement.
actually the.
Yum.
It's almost like the urine and gas of the yeast, trying to be as child-friendly as possible. Then you get into different kinds of yeast that you can use. Certain yeast will give off what's called esters. the higher temperature you put the yeast at, the more esters you'll get from any individual yeast. Some will give off kind of a banana flavor, like a Bavarian Hefeweizen. There's no bananas in it. It's just the yeast being angry or happy, depending on the temperature. And you can adjust the flavor with using the temperature. From there, we will bring it all downstairs. That's what we're doing right here with this one. You can actually come with me here if you want.
Cool. Here, you're gonna take this. I'll put my. I can at least put the camera. Right? Can we see? Are we looking at anything?
Everything that you're seeing up top there is a mixture of air and yeast. Some breweries have closed fermenters. If they have, a weaker yeast that they're trying to get different flavors out of. Our yeast here they're insane. They're almost cannibalistic if they don't have enough. They're territorial. Any foreign bacteria that comes in here will be destroyed by the yeast. Wild yeasts, like you all have yeast on you right now. I have it on me. That's why most people, a lot of breweries will have closed fermenters because they don't want that foreign stuff in there. But like I said, our yeast is so powerful, nothing will survive.
What makes your yeast so powerful?
It's just the strain. Just the strain of yeast we use.
Secret. It's a secret
I'm
recipe.
asking a serious question. It just sounds like a silly question.
Yeah. No, it's just it's a really high attenuating yeast. It's powerful. I'll get you later.
Yeast on
I
steroids.
yeast have muscles. I can't bring you downstairs because the only way to get down there is through the death ladder that you walk by right there. And unlike the Bates Mill tour, we don't have pre-made disclaimers. But basically, it goes down into tanks where we try to get all the yeast to sink down to the bottom so that we can siphon off the beer and then put it into the serving tanks where we will force carbonate. We have tanks of carbon dioxide, and we'll just pressurize the tanks until the
Sophie, you're distracting us.
Way more fun
Stop.
So that's one way of carbonating beer. Another way is called natural carbonation or bottle conditioning, where you won't filter the beer. You'll get all the yeast out that you can possibly get out, but there's always going to be some floating in solution. And what will happen is you put it in a closed container, and the yeast will become hungry again, reactivate, and start eating residual sugars that are left over after the fermentation. They're still giving off carbon and still making alcohol, but whereas it's in an enclosed space, it'll naturally carbonate. Those are usually called cask conditioned beers or bottle conditioned beers. They're more prevalent in Europe and that. You got to turn around for this stuff. Making face. That's basically the process of making beer. I don't know how in depth you want to. I don't know if you want to get into the chemical compounds of.
No, I think it was just a basic outline. I think we're doing good.
Yeah.
All right, now you can take a bow. Seriously,
Well,
come on.
curtsy.
There we go.
Get out of my head.